I'm Dr. Clint Bourne, a retired Ohio Public School superintendent, current university professor at Franciscan University of Steubenville, and author of the text, Making Sense of School Finance, a Practical State-by-State Approach, and Reducing School Expenses, containing insurance costs, funding capital, and tackling the challenges. This presentation has been developed for the Missouri School Board Association. The intent of this production is to provide Missouri school board members with an overview of Missouri's school funding. America's school funding approaches and the tax means to support K through 12 public education across the nation have evolved over decades to its present status. Political viewpoints, economic pressures, legislative acts, social movements, and litigation influence the evolution of school finance principles. State and federal laws associated with school finance, funding sources, and distribution methods are key facets in the transformation. Like many other states, Missouri has witnessed several rounds of school finance litigation. Missouri's school finance system was challenged on equity grounds in the Committee for Educational Equality versus State case. The court found the funding system unconstitutional. In response to the court decision, the legislature passed the School Improvement Act of 1993, which called for an extensive overhaul of the school funding mechanism by raising taxes, improving funding equity, and instituting educational reforms such as standards and assessments. The Committee for Educational Equality filed adequacy lawsuit against the state in 2004, claiming that over the years, the Missouri education finance system was unconstitutional because students were harmed by the underfunding of essential resources. In response to the legal challenge, the Missouri legislature passed Senate Bill 287 during the 2006-07 school year and implemented a new PK through 12 funding mechanism. Based on a successful school approach, the legislature added a state adequacy target variable in the formula to factor in the average operating instructional expenses by high-performing districts. The foundation formula, still in existence today, sought to rectify problems by elevating funding to adequate levels in all school districts and leveling the playing field between property-rich and property-poor districts. In 2009, the Missouri Supreme Court denied the lawsuit's claim and declared that the funding formula was constitutional and did not violate the 25% minimum level of adequate funding detailed in the state constitution. Like other states, public charter school funding impacts Missouri. Charter schools are public schools that operate apart from traditional school districts with their own boards. Missouri's charter school student enrollment has grown steadily, particularly in St. Louis and Kansas City. According to a representative from the Missouri Charter Public School Association in a 2019 St. Louis Post-Dispatch article, state laws have excluded charter schools from local revenue. However, opponents feel that the legislature needs to address charter schools' academic oversight before fixing the funding issue. Recently, the Missouri Governor and General Assembly, like other states, cut $448 million from the 2021 budget due to the coronavirus pandemic's effect on state income and sales tax. More than $125 million was cut in PK through 12 education funding. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, in fiscal year 2017, state and local governments supplied the majority of elementary and secondary public education dollars. Across the nation, local sources averaged 45.1% of the total revenue. State governments supplied 47.1%, and the federal government granted 7.9%. Other sources, such as corporate, private, and foundation grants, federal and state governmental discretionary programs, and fundraisers provided minimal funding. In Missouri, according to the fiscal year 2017 U.S. Census Bureau data, local sources averaged 53.6% or $6.7 billion of the total PK through 12 public school revenue, which was $11.5 billion. The state government supplied $3.7 billion, or 32.6%, while the federal government granted $1 million, or 8.7% of the total revenue. Property tax, like most other states, is the primary unrestricted local revenue source. Across the country, 84.2% of K-12 local funding derives from property tax, whereas 15.8% comes from other sources. In Missouri, 78.5%, or $5.3 billion of the total $6.7 billion of K-12 local funding derives from property tax, whereas 21.5%, or $1.4 billion, comes from other sources. For Missouri, the PK through 12 student-based foundation formula has four basic components: weighted average daily attendance, state adequacy target, dollar value modifier, and local effort. A district's student average daily attendance during the regular school year and summer school is the ratio of hours that a student actually attended from the previous year in proportion to the hours a student could possibly attend. Therefore, if a student attends all the school hours possible in the previous year, he or she is funded as one student, or 1.0 full-time equivalent, or FTE. After arriving at the average daily attendance full-time equivalent for a district's regular students, special education students are counted as 1.75 FTE. English language learners are counted as 1.6 FTE, and students who received free and reduced meals are counted as 1.25 FTE. The state adequacy target is a key part of the formula because it is designed to make sure students' basic learning needs are met and that the total amount of funding from one district to another is equitable or fair. The state adequacy target is a specific dollar amount calculated every other year. The dollar value modifier is a cost of living index intended to allocate additional dollars to districts that operate in more expensive areas of the state with higher salaries and other expenses. The local effort factor is subtracted from the district's subtotal of state basic aid to determine a district's total state funding, known as basic aid or equalization aid. While those four terms are the heart of the formula, there is another factor that plays a significant role. The hold harmless provision prevents districts from receiving less funding than they did during the 25-06 school year, which helps poverty poor and small districts. Missouri's school funding system also has several categorical programs that distribute money outside of the foundation formula. Subject to legislative appropriations, categorical funds are restricted by specific spending purposes within the category. The legislature earmarks these funds for transportation, career ladders, which is an extra district funding to provide dollars for teachers, librarians, counselors, and other school personnel's step and training increases. The District Educational and Screening Reimbursement Grant provides additional district monies for parent education, developmental screening for children under 5 years old, and programs for delayed children ages 3 and 4, and a small schools grant for districts with an average daily attendance of 350 or lower. When appropriated by the legislature, supplementary state funds come in the form of entitlement funding, meaning all schools will receive funds if eligible, and/or discretionary grants, which are competitive, meaning a district must apply and be awarded the funding. Such grants for Missouri schools are school safety, urban training, K-3 reading assessment, scholars and fine arts academies, dyslexia training program, character education initiatives, special education high need, Special Olympics, and school board training. Missouri schools averaged 8.7% of their total budget from the federal government. The U.S. Department of Education calculates the Title I Part A allocations in basic, concentration, targeted, and incentive grants for local education agencies using the district's census poverty population for children ages 5 through 17, as well as the number of children in neglected or delinquent institutions and foster homes. Title I provides federal funding to schools for implementing strategies in raising math and reading student achievement for students below state expectations. The Title I Part C Education of Migratory Children program stipulates formula grants for establishing or improving education programs designed to meet learning needs for qualified children of migratory agricultural workers or fishers. Other federal entitlement programs include Title II, Part A, Supporting Effective Instruction. This grant pinpoints funding to prepare, train, and recruit high-quality educators for students from low-income families and minorities. Title III, Part A, English Language Acquisition, Language Enhancement, and Academic Achievement Program aims to ensure that English language learners and immigrant students achieve at high levels in academic subjects to meet state standards. Title IV, Part A, Student Support and Achievement Enrichment Program subsidizes pursuits to create a well-rounded education, strengthen school conditions for student learning, and advance the effective use of technology. Title V, Part B, Subpart 1, the Small Rural School Achievement Program serves LEAs with fewer than 600 students in the average daily attendance, and Subpart 2, the Rural Low-Income School Program, supplies rural districts with financial assistance for initiatives aimed at enhancing student achievement. Additional federal entitlements derived from the Education of School-Age Children with Disabilities Grant, Part B, Section 611, reinforces instructional programs, services, and materials for children aged 5 to 21 with special needs. The Part B, Section 619, preschool grant authorizes funding to states for programs serving children with special needs aged 3 to 5. Several programs from the federal government provide funding to local schools for school meals. Students from low-income families are provided meals and other school snacks at a free or reduced rate. The Strengthening Career and Technical Education for the 21st Century Act, also referred to as Perkins 5, delivers formula grants to support career and technical education at secondary schools. The E-rate program specifies 20 to 90% discounts on telecommunications services, internet access, internet and internal communications, and basic maintenance. The school-based Medicaid program permits payments to schools for billable, medically necessary services mandated on a child's individualized education program. U.S. Congress authorizes discretionary or competitive grants by annual congressional budget allocations. The grants.gov website institutes a centralized access point for federal agencies to announce grants, explain directions, and collect applications. This concludes the overview of Missouri's school funding.